for some time now given considerable thought to initializing a strategic planning process, that would marry community values as it relates to the school system into a strategic direction, strategic investment looking forward. We've had similar processes in the past. We had, I think, one that you participated in, Mr. Cooper, in 2004, and you were successful despite.
That was a rezoning.
Yeah. Well, it was similar. I say similar in nature because there were aspects of that I could foresee, envision being part of this in terms of possibly using a market research-based type firm to gather the data that would drive some of the decision making, some of the process. We also in 2009 did a similar process. It was more financially based. The first one, as you mentioned, was more zoning based. I kind of see this one as being far broader in scope, potentially touching on those various things and integrating those into a strategic direction at this point. That process is currently in the design phase, I would say, and my hopes is we can bring you a minimum conceptual template at a February board meeting. It's kind of a basis to pursue.
How long do you think it'll take to unfold?
The design piece or
the whole process?
I think that'll correlate most closely with the scope. Given the all the variables in place, like I said, I would potentially expect this to touch on the zoning piece as well, kind of related to that capital building piece. Integrating all those, I would say that it could be pretty lengthy. I think even the design phase, I would think designing those tools to gather that feedback, that value set, and trying to integrate that into the process. I hate to speculate, Mr. Cooper. I want to design it right and implement it right. But the underlying concept is to certainly incorporate the voice of the community in that process.
So, what you're saying, I guess what you're saying, I guess, is developing the working out to incorporate people across involved in the planning process as well.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
That value set, when you look at the process, the components together, that data were not that this one would necessarily incorporate those in the initial design phases, but there were focus groups, there was New South Research, who we've had success with in our surveys in the past. Hoover, they were involved in that process too. There was a calling process to gather feedback, trying to get that cross section and really get the value set that would incorporate into some of the decisions that would ultimately result in a strategic plan or strategic direction.
I believe the zoning talked about having several 300+ parents engaged in that process. How will this process look? Will it be inclusive? How will the selection process look like? And how will the communication plan look as well?
It's still very much in the design phase, Mr. Murphy. Part of what you described was the piece that was data gathering piece with the folks that actually served on the working committee. In the first example, the 2004 example, I think it was maybe 30-ish, Mr. Cooper, you remember? I think when we did our task force, I think we had probably, I'm going to guess 35. I don't remember, but it was we tried to establish a cross-section representation would see this, kind of maybe having similarities to both of those processes. And we'll need to sit down and, determine really how much of this we wanna fight off. But I would suspect to truly get a direction that incorporates all the variables and the appropriate feedback, I would expect it to take an involved-based process.
You had great success with the one that was initiated in 2009. It's pretty much an independently operated strategic planning process that produced great results and a lot of hard work on parts of people, particularly in the community. So I think it's a great idea. Do you see, is academics going to roll into this?
I think it's the whole thing. I see it being the whole equation. Last time, it was more of a financial based, which I would just see that being part of this too. But at some point in the process last time, the committee broke off into kind of functional areas. They reviewed, for example, I think one of them was high school, not staffing, but high school processes, that's where they examined, the 5 periods versus 6 periods, teacher workload, kind of those kinds of things. So I would foresee that, that possibly being part of it too, that kind of functional approach. But I would think we'd also need at this point to incorporate kind of the capital investment looking forward, tied to various enrollment assumptions as well as enrollment assumptions.
I think it's a great idea because when you involve the community in what you described there, the whole notion that cut costs are going to impact some programs, some activities, some extracurriculars, some not. And, so it's a great way of getting a fuller understanding of what the implications are of what people think they want or don't want to do or to cut costs.
And I would hope that there'll be some focus on potential revenue ideas as well as part of it. As we said earlier, it'll take a multifaceted approach, and I hope that those kinds of discussions and analysis will be part of it as well.
In 05 and 09, was city leadership engaged into that discussion as well?
They were, if I remember right, Mr. Cooper, there were assignments of where representation on the committee, how it was selected, and I'm not necessarily saying that's the way we do this one. Like I said, it's still in the design phase, but I think there were slots in that case granted to city administration, and I'm going off memory there, Mr. Murphy. So.
Mr. Craig?
No.
I wanted to find out how parents can become a part of these ongoing discussions, what the values of the community are, and how they can be replicated and or enforced through our schools, not enforced, but reinforced through our schools. Will parents need to come to the central office to volunteer, or will there be an online application where parents will be able to apply and become a part of these committees?
It's really in the design phase. The input potentially will be gathered in different ways, whether it be through survey, whether it be participation in focus group. If that's part of it, if that's a component of it, I suspect there will be ultimately a team that will meet. In the past, when we've done that, the information and feedback has been gathered in typically a variety of different ways. But it's in the design phase. That information will be forthcoming.
Okay, well, I mean, I'd like to suggest an online process. I'd also like to suggest what we found successful as through the Hoover buses was a variety of meeting times and days so that everyone could participate. People who work weekends may not be able to come to meetings on the weekend. People who work during the days may not be able to come during the day. People who work in the evenings. So having a variety of input, meeting times and days is
anticipate a group like that starting? I know it's still in the design phase, but do you have a general timetable for when they would start
I
meeting?
do not, I mean, again, it's in the design phase, we've got meetings scheduled to talk about that, talk about, the scope, to talk about what data gathering methodology we may use, within that scope, so there's, again, it's in the design phase, that's the best I can do at this point.
And
I hope to bring that to the board, at least a conceptual template of that at the next board meeting.
Thank you.